welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
And I'm Beth Ellicott.
And you are listening to Fiber Talk, the twice-weekly podcast for needlework artists. Our artist this week, for the second time, Nancy Lukoskie of Fancy Finishing. Nancy, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Holy smokes, I looked it up. March 10, 2018, more than 4 years ago. Wow.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I knew it was a while ago, but
yeah,
that's some time.
Yep. That is a while.
Wow.
All right. So,
yeah.
And because of that, and because we have so many more listeners these days, I felt for you, we really needed to just kind of go through what you do, because you are unique in the world in terms of what you do. So it's needlepoint and a lot of church work.
Yes, a lot of church work. So actually, I'm in my 43rd year.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, I know. And I started out as an apprentice in 1979 with a finisher who was a finisher for the Washington National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. And I apprenticed with her for 4 years, and then the Altar Guild at the Washington National Cathedral knew me pretty well then, and they wanted to support me in starting Fancywork finishing. And so I've been their needlepoint guru all these years. And what I did also when I was apprenticing, we did finishing for all the needlepoint shops in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia. And there were a lot of them back then. So for the first year, all I did was block needlepoint. That was my job.
Now there's a life, huh? There's a life. Oh,
yeah. It was a good foundation, though. And I've been thinking about that now with, putting out these teaching videos. Like the blocking is the foundation of a good finished piece. And so by doing that for a whole year, I really got to understand the different characteristics of the canvases, the threads, the tensions, and how to block a piece that's stitched in continental on an interlocking canvas that's so curled up it won't even lay flat.
That was my first one. Did you block my first one?
Maybe. And so there's certain things you have to do with that canvas and not slap on glue. I'm not a glue user. So it was all really learning about how to stretch the piece out to its furthest point so it holds its shape. But with a piece like that, you have to do something because it'll just shift right back into play. When you start sewing on it, it'll start shifting and getting askew again. So there's all those little things that I want to teach in the videos on what to do to end up with a nicely blocked piece that will hold its shape while you're sewing on it. And like I said, not using glues. So after that, I ended up learning how to sew pillows and finish Christmas ornaments and Christmas stockings and eyeglass cases and things like that. So even though I went into the church realm when I started Fancywork finishing, I still did finishing for, personal pieces because, when you think about it, all these members at the church who are getting involved in these needlepoint projects stitch for themselves as well. So I would continue doing the finishing for them. So,
so you still work with the cathedral then?
I'm still their needlepoint person. What's happened, though, is I physically cannot keep finishing and restoring the church needlepoint. It's taken a toll on my hands and my back and my eyes over the years. So I've kind of weaned out of it. I did put together a video of my methodology for working on the needlepoint projects for churches. And I'm going to make that video available online, sometime this year. And, but with the cathedral, I'm still consulting with them. But when COVID hit, all of the needlepoint, any textile came out of the cathedral and went into storage.
Oh.
So everything's been kind of put on hold right now. And they don't have anyone to do the finishing and restoration. And I've been doing restoration for them for the past 12 years because that's kind of the phase that we're in over there, not really creating the new piece. except for the presidents. We created a kneeler for President Ford and W. George Bush. And the cool thing about that, bringing up W. George Bush and Senator McCain, I was restoring one of the last projects for them, and it's the crossing kneelers. So when you saw their funerals, right there where there are these long prie-dieu kneelers, and on one side was the family members, and on the other side were the current and past presidents. Well, I had just finished restoring those kneelers that are on those prie-dieu benches right before Senator McCain's funeral was held there. And I just so happened to call them and said, they're done. And they're like, can you get them over here right now? So the service, I think it was on Saturday, and I took them over on Friday. And,
oh my.
It was kind of, And it was an experience because Secret Service had to, take care of me and make sure I was, they watched me. And, but I installed, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So I have photos of, Senator McCain's funeral, with all of them sitting there in front of those kneelers. And then I also have photos of President George Bush's service where they're all sitting there in front of those kneelers as well. So I kind of put together a video on the restoration process. There's a video and photos of what they looked like before I started working on them, and then when I took them apart and the cleaning process, and then I have them laid out in steps of the restoration and the finishing process. And then there's finished with what they look like after they were done, and then what they look like, at these services. So I have a video of that I'm going to put out just for viewing purposes.
I think that's fabulous because there's a piece of history that if you didn't take the time to record that would be totally lost. You'd have it in your head. But now once it's out on the internet, who knows how long that'll last, but people can go back in 10, 15 years now and look at that and say, wow, look at those pieces. Look what they looked like before. Look at what she did to them. That's a fabulous way to record history.
Oh, great. Thank you, Beth. I didn't even really think of it that way. I was just thinking that it's a dying art and nobody else is really doing it. And especially for the Washington National Cathedral, I thought I just really kind of needed to record it. And I do have to show it to them before I put it out there, but there's nothing in there that they wouldn't approve of. And I know some of the committee members are, anxious to see what it looks like, because they don't know what it looks like when those pieces are taken apart and what we're dealing with. And so, it's quite interesting, but it's nice to hear you say that, because I really didn't think of it that way. So.
Yeah, well, and I was going to add to that too. When you see a funeral of someone of the stature of Senator McCain, and know that you played whatever part of that, I mean, that has to feel good too. That's my work right there, and that's just got to feel really good, I would think. It's
rewarding, for sure. Definitely, and so. Anyway, the cathedral's always been a great, client, but it's also been sort of like a home, to all these years. So, but whatever I do for them, I do for churches across the country and some abroad. Not a lot abroad, but some, So, I'm going to back you up a little bit. When they put all of those kneelers in storage, Is there some special care that has to be taken to store them, not knowing how long they're going to be stored away? I mean, do we have to worry about mothballs and humidity and those kinds of things, or are you just able to put them in a closet and not worry about it? No, they have an archival room, on the premises. I wasn't involved and taking all of those up and putting them away. But I have been with other pieces in the past where, they would, like the War Memorial Chapel. There were some that we had too. There's a lot of pieces over the years. And what I would do is, if they needed cleaned and they weren't going to be used anymore, then I would clean them, and then they get wrapped in acid-free tissue paper. And then there's archival boxes that are acid-free. And then I put a little sachet of lavender in the box or in the package because that keeps bugs away. So but when it came to storing these, to be honest, I don't know what they did with everything. So, because that was COVID time and it was closed up, and it was just whoever was working in there was handling that. So I'm assuming they followed some of those procedures, where they put them in that particular room. And so I don't know. I don't know.
If they didn't, more work for you coming up. So,
well, I can't do it anymore. That's the problem. I don't know. I was so hoping that I would have found an apprentice, and I tried for 15 years of all kinds of advertising and verbally, talking to everybody, trying to find somebody that really wanted to be an apprentice and learn the trade and carry it out. But I just couldn't find anybody. And now I don't want an apprentice because I don't want to be married to the work, 40 hours a week or so anymore. So now that's why I put the video together, because I thought, well, I'll put the video out there, and if someone's interested in going that professional route, then they can.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to painting canvases, I have some videos that I'm going to put out on that. And that's, and by doing that, though, I'll be teaching some of how you come up with designs too. And, so
what happens to you? Is it years and years of just tugging and pulling on canvases? Your hands just can't take it anymore? Is that pretty much what happens?
Yeah. The blocking, and blocking is also hard on the lower back. But it's also when it comes to assembling the kneelers and the seat cushions, there's a certain process that I do that's really physical. And it's really hard on the back and the hands. And then I actually hand sew and I pin the fabric on the bottom of the cushions and kneelers. And then I actually hand sew, where I do 1/4-inch stitches all the way around these pieces. And like the ones I was talking about at the cathedral, those crossing kneelers, they were 9 3/4 by 55 inches. So doing 1/4-inch stitches, trying to punch through,
Oh, jeez.
The needlepoint and the velvet. It's and then I kind of massage as I'm doing it before I pull the thread tight. So it's just, now if I just finished a big job for a church in Florida, and it was a restoration, and I could only do 2 kneelers a day, finishing after they were blocked and everything. And it's all I could do to like hold a fork or a knife at night.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, but
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So what happens during the pandemic is, churches had to really change the way they did everything. Did that open doors for you to do more work consulting, or did it all just go quiet for you?
No, I was bombarded.
Yeah.
I was turning work away weekly, and I wish I was 20 years younger at that time, because it would have been fabulous,
Money would have rolled in, huh?
It really would have. I'm not kidding. I was turning away jobs, a minimum of 3 or 4 a month.
Ooh.
And yeah. And then of course they're upset with me. Well, what do you mean you can't take this on? And I really couldn't. And I did take on a couple of jobs where I did the designing and painting of the canvases and pulled the wool, but I can't do the finishing. And they really wanted the kneelers, but now there's kneelers to be finished, and I feel really bad about it, but but they knew it going in that I couldn't actually do the finishing. So
Yeah.
one particular church, though, they're having me come down and I'm going to teach them how to finish their kneelers. So, but I said to them, I can teach you and I can show you, but I can't do it all for you. So,
Right.
Anyway, I'm hoping with putting the videos out there that somebody is interested. It's a great little cottage industry. I was really kind of hoping to find a stay-at-home mom, because it's a great little business to have at your house. And that's how I started out years ago. And the customers would come to my house and take pictures of me and my kids, and like they were great about it. So
yeah, I think that's what's happening right now in the whole finishing industry. If I've listened to a few podcasts, and then we have a finisher in our area who's no longer young, and we forget how hard that is on your body to do that, to do the blocking. She mainly does needlepoint block finishing, and to physically pull that out, I can see how that would be so hard on your body, and then to hand sew, like you said, on your hands, and just. You're right, though. It'd be nice to find people who are stay at home, who are looking for a way to earn a little extra income, who would be willing to take that on, to do it right. Not just
correct.
Like me. I if I want to finish something small, I can do something quick, but I know it's not going to last forever. I mean, I just know it isn't. I know I don't have that skill set. So.
Yeah, it was like finishing Christmas ornaments, which is really like my least favorite thing to do. I really don't like doing those. I do them by hand, and it's all hand sewing. And I know there's a lot of finishing of ornaments where they use glue to hold the ornaments in place. But I've never finished them with glue. I just do it by hand with hand sewing. So managing those little teeny things is really hard on the hands, especially when you're trying to hand sew. So, but there's groups of ladies and things that, I'll hold a workshop and teach them. And, a whole group came down to my shop one day, or 9 of them, 9 ladies besides me in there, and I had them all working on different aspects of the finishing process, and it was a lot of fun. But I don't think I'll be doing a video on finishing ornaments, though, because oh, yike.
Your intro. I really hate doing this, but here's how to do it.
Yeah.
Here's how to do it properly,
Well, so the last, hand sewing won't come apart. So.
Right. And then you don't have that glue on it. I mean, I'm going to admit to it. I've used glue to finish things, but I also know that when I go into the nursing home and my kids are going through my stuff, they're going to say, "Oh, remember when Mom made this?" into the trash or into the Goodwill box. I just know they're not forever things. Things that I know they're going to want to keep. Those I took the time, or I hope they'll want to keep. I took time to finish properly.
Yeah.
But but there is if you can do it yourself, that's a huge advantage too, of to do it properly, to know how to hand sew those pieces together. They will last forever.
Yeah, they will, because the climate, freezing cold attics or really hot attics, it won't impact threads. But I always, and logically in my mind, I'm thinking, years after they're in these different climates and storage, how does that glue hold up? I don't know. I often wondered, they look so pretty, when I go into the needlepoint shops and they're sitting there finished, they look really, really pretty. And but I'm glad somebody else is doing them because I'm not interested.
Right.
So in general, then you're shifting your business to more consulting, education, teaching, that kind of thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And with the church work, there's a lot of proprietary information that isn't out there, and there's some things that I do just in the finishing process of pretty much everything that I don't really see out there. And I used to hold on to that information like it was gold for years, all those years. And it's like in the past 10 years, I'm like, no, I'm not possessive of it anymore. So, I think it's just, I think that's pretty, I'm assuming that that's a pretty common, when you're an entrepreneur, whatever you have that kind of separates you a little bit, you hold on to it, so, but not anymore.
Yeah. Well, in a niche market like that, particularly when you're focusing on churches as a caliber of the cathedral, and that's your livelihood, yeah, I'd hang on to every secret I had, because the minute someone else gets it, then they'll undercut you, or any number of things happen. So yeah, I'd guard it quite closely. I don't blame you.
Yeah. I think even like with other people that have different types of businesses, I hear them, say things like that, similar like that too, or they get upset because some other company found out about something that they do, and so I just think it's part of the, if you have your own business, you do feel that way. But like I said, not anymore. I'm in a position in the frame of mind now where I'll share anything.
She's over it. She's over it.
I am. Yeah.
Well, that's the trade magazine I edit is for manufacturers, and I run into that all the time. Oh, we can't show a picture of that because that's our trade secret, and I have to bite my tongue. But I just want to say, look, your competitors have already taken all your products apart completely, studied them, to the nth degree. They know what you're doing. You're not going to surprise anybody. But with an art-based thing, and especially what you do, there's some tricks of the trade. I'm sure that if you have the clients and you're getting the jobs, you aren't giving up. I don't blame you.
Yeah. Or even like with a church piece of restoration, the church paid $2,000 to have the piece restored. They're not going to let anyone open it up,
right?
Take it apart and dissect it. So they'd never get it put back together the same way. But I mean, I think, I don't know, but that's kind of, like I said, that belief system of mine is long gone, because I don't have an apprentice carrying it out, I feel like, I'm just ready to,
right.
share.
Right.
If anybody's interested, that's great. I'm interested in sharing information, but, I kind of like going on. There's one Facebook page. I kind of like, sometimes I go in there and they'll be writing about wanting to know something, and I'll write something in there, giving them some guidelines or some information. But, really those people don't know who I am.
Yeah.
So they're probably thinking, who's this giving me this advice? But
what's that like when you finish a project for a church, and it's the Sunday where the pieces are rededicated or dedicated and put into service? Do you attend services and to be there for that, or is that just not in your calendar?
No, I do, as much as I can. I don't get to all of them, but it's great because these people, the committee members and the donors or whatever, they put so much of their emotions into these projects, and they're overwhelmed and, excited and happy. And, it's kind of sad because, the ones who do the stitching, these canvases are following them around for a couple years. And, it's just such a, it's rewarding for them, and it's rewarding for me to see the job complete and see how happy they are. It's a really, really cool experience, and everybody's just so grateful of, the help. And this last job that I did, it was the very last church job I did. We started 2 years ago because it was a fire that on Palm Sunday, the church had an arsonist start a fire.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And there were 48 pieces. One of them was damaged to the point of no return, but, they really wanted me to do the whole thing. And at that point, I really didn't want to do the restoration part. I was, interested in disassembling them and cleaning them and trying to get the smoke smell out and, doing some minor repairs and getting them ready for finishing. But I ended up taking the whole job on. But it was a 2-year process. And, but I haven't seen them in place, but, they sent a lovely letter. And, but that was my last church job, except there was a couple that, I did, I have they're like small acolyte kneelers, and it's a church nearby here. So I said I would go ahead and finish them, and there's 5 of them. So that's it. After that, I'm not doing any of it. So
it's got to be hard to turn them down, though. Some of those churches, I'm sure, it just grabs your heart. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the 2 years when COVID was really impacted, it was so hard to turn people away. I was sick over it, but I couldn't do it. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the videos. So you're putting together a series of videos as educational pieces. What do you have in the works here?
Well, I'm tidying up the first one that goes out, and it's how to finish a needlepoint knife edge pillow with professional touches, and that will be my first one. And I don't want to hire anyone that professionally help me get these videos together, because I want to keep the prices affordable for everybody. And if I go and hire a pro, then that's going to jack the prices up. So I'm doing a pretty good job. I mean, I'm learning a lot, and they'll get better as they go on, but they're very instructional. I don't have a lot of flowery stuff in there where I'm trying to entertain or anything. I'm really sticking to, teaching the technical aspect of finishing the pillow, nicely. And so I'm trying to zoom in on certain parts and, have arrows pointed with an explanation of what I'm doing there. And so they're instructional, and it's going to give everyone the foundation and the information they need to finish a pillow nicely. They won't leave thinking, well, what am I supposed to do here? Or what am I supposed to be doing there? Or this isn't explained to me. Sometimes you even like cooking shows or in recipes, they leave something out. There's nothing left out. So, so that's it. And then I was thinking, blocking is essential to a nicely finished piece. And I have 2 videos that I need to edit. One is blocking a new needlepoint canvas, and the other is blocking an older piece that has no raw canvas around the edges. It's up against the needlepoint. And so I'm going to put those 2 videos out, and then I'm going to put out some painting ones. But the knife edge pillow, I plan to have that one out and available, and I'll send out emails, a prior email announcing to everyone that it's coming out. But I plan to have it up by the end of this month. And then that'll be available for like a week. And then I'm going to take it off, and then I'm going to put another one out there. And because I feel like if they just sit there, then, they'll just be sitting there taking up space. Because, you have to have another company that hosts the videos because the files are so large. And, you pay when you pay, you can only have like so many videos in there and they charge you this amount. And then if you add more videos, then they charge you some more. So like I said, I'm really just trying to do this so that it's affordable for anybody to get the videos.
Yeah. So we're going to have blocking old and new. And what else do you have planned?
Finishing this knife edge pillows, the first one to come out. And then I'm going to I get a lot of emails, people asking me about painting. So I've been bombarded with emails on finishing the knife edge pillows. So that's why that's going out first. And then I was going to do the painting, and the painting classes or instructional videos are going to be painting, how to create a graph and then translate the graph onto needlepoint canvas, and then mixing paints, and how to create depth in your painting. And then there's going to be another one where it's, I call it free painting. And it's something that doesn't have to, if the reason I graph is because it needs to be symmetrical, but something that's not symmetrical, there's some steps I take for free painting. And a lot of people say to me, well, I'm not artistic, I can't paint. Well, yeah, you can, because when I show them what to do, they'll be able to paint,
Yeah.
And it'll take that fear and apprehension away from them too, where they'll feel comfortable, they'll see something and like, I really would like that on a piece of needlepoint. Well, and this instructional video, they'll be able to take it and translate it onto needlepoint canvas. And that also too is I paint to point. So I'll be, showing, how to, something that might be free painted in there, how to go back and touch it up so it's painted to point. So that
will be useful for people, because that's the challenge, isn't it? I mean, that to get that just right is really where the skill comes in.
Yeah, and mixing paints. And I did hold a workshop and on Zoom, and there were several ladies that attended, and they were all over the place. And it was my first time doing it, and I used my iPhone, and I learned a lot of what not to do. And one of the things is I had the iPhone clamped in a gadget that you attach to a tripod. And by accident, when I moved the clamp to adjust the phone, it called 911.
Oh, no.
And yeah, these ladies are on this workshop, and then here's 911 going, what's your emergency? And so there's a lot of
the wrong color of paint.
I know, it was not good. So there's things like that I find the live instruction and teaching harder to do than just videotaping it and then editing it. I find that to be kind of a little bit more productive. And there's someone that I did a one-on-one online course where I was teaching her how to do a knife-edged inset pillow. Now that's one that will be coming out soon. I might end up putting the inset pillow out before the other stuff. That I'll do the knife-edged, and then the next one will be the knife-edged inset, because I do get asked a lot about insets. And when I do an inset, I don't do the mitered corners and stuff. So, it's a nice, clean, nicely finished inset pillow. So, and that video turned out really good. So that's when I'll put out, I think, after the knife edge, now that I think about it. So, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And I do like interacting with, everybody. I love it when somebody calls and, they have a problem. Like someone called not long ago and she came to visit me and they had a house fire. And she had a lot of pieces of needlepoint in her house, and they were beautiful. And there would be like a pillow on top of a pillow, and the soot, you could, wherever something was up against the needlepoint, you could see where the soot was and what the piece looked like prior to. And, so she came down and I gave her instructions on how to clean them herself. And, so I like doing that.
When something like that happens, unless the pieces are burnt, if it's just soot and smoke, is that pretty much salvageable back to original, or is there always going to be a hint of the smoke or soot?
No, you can take it right back to its original state, and but it takes some time and some patience, So like that church job. I had 48 pieces in my studio. Boy, did it stink.
I'm sure.
That's a nasty smell, so, but after a while, after the cleaning and doing it over and over again, I got it out. You couldn't smell it anymore. So, like the first time this one particular woman, she cleaned one of her pieces and sent it to me to finish, and I said, it still reeks. I can't finish it like that. So I cleaned it and got the smell out. But it's a process, but it can be done.
Yeah. Oh, for that church, boy, I'd have moved a small mountain to make that right for them. Yeah, that's heartbreaking when stuff like that happens.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I would think of, when you think about it, it takes a minimum of, for the average person to stitch a square inch, basket weave, 45 minutes, and there's well over, 100, 1,000 stitches plus, in the church pieces, and one person has taken all those stitches, So I usually don't tell people how many stitches are in a canvas till after they've stitched them. Because they're volunteering their time stitching these canvases for the churches. If they knew there was like 300,000 plus stitches, they might say, no, I don't think so. But yeah, there's a lot of love and time that goes into the stitch and needlepoint canvases. That's what makes needlepoint so cool, right? Right.
Well, it lasts forever. All that effort lasts forever. Yeah.
And I even think the needlepoint painted canvases are just beautiful before they're even stitched.
Yeah, I was in a store once, and the subject of painted canvases came up, and one lady said, "I don't get those. The artwork's already done. What's the point of stitching over that? Just it's beautiful." She kind of had a point. I don't know.
It's true. There's been times where I've painted canvases and the canvas was just absolutely beautiful. And then the person did the stitching and it came back and I was like, did the painting really look like that? But I think the painted canvases are just really beautiful. So yeah, I agree with her.
Yep.
So
and then if you get them in the hands of a stitcher who knows what he or she is doing, and then they sing, and then you can they're enhanced, and they're so much fun too. So.
Oh, you're right about that. I have a friend who owns a needlepoint shop, and every time I go in there, she's working on something in her stitch, and the type of stitches she chooses to use. Now, this isn't church work. This is, personal items. Just beautiful. I mean, just gorgeous. And it makes me want to, learn all those stitches and start working on something. But church work, because you want it, it's a piece of furniture, you're using it, you're sitting on it, you're kneeling on it. You really want to stick with basket weave. And the only time you do continental is if it's a single row of a color, but you really want to do basket weave because it weaves the canvas and the wool together and it makes it a much stronger, stitched piece. So church work, I usually recommend not doing decorative stitches because, people's clothing might snag a thread. There's not as much of a dense area of, threads in an area, and it might wear away prematurely. And so, and we noticed this at the cathedral years ago, like in the 50s and the 60s, they were doing some decorative stitches on some of the kneelers and cushions in the Washington National Cathedral. And, over the years, when I was on board and everything, you were seeing how they weren't holding up,
And that makes sense. That makes sense because those stitches are meant to be more decorative, just to look at. Whereas if you're using an item a lot, you really want that strength, like you said, of the basket weave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know, Gary, the last time we talked, which was in March of 2018, I had mentioned to you that I had 2 stockings, Christmas stockings I stitched for I designed and painted for my grandchildren. And I was joking around that, they might be 30 years old before they get them. And I think you commented that you had a Christmas stocking for your son.
Yep.
Who was now, I think at that time, 30 some years old or whatever.
I finished it.
Did you?
Yeah, I sucked it up. I got mad at myself one day because he was 28 years old, and every time Christmas came around, it was the family kind of looked at me like, "When's that stocking going to get done?" And so yeah, I just sucked it up and said, "All right, enough procrastination, enough of this and that and the other thing," and got it done. And I forget when I gave it to him, but it was at Christmas. And now it's so cool because they have he and his wife in their home. They have a place where they hang their stockings. They don't have a fireplace, but they have a place where they hang all their stockings. Their dog and Michelle and Kevin. But then the one that I did for him, that hangs in a special spot. It doesn't go with the rest of them, so it always feels good. Yeah, he says no, that's different. That doesn't go
that's
with
cool.
Yeah. So no, I finished
that's
it.
Cool. Oh, good. Well, I finished. My grandkids got theirs this year. This past Christmas, I finally got them done, and my grandson's 9 and my granddaughter's 6, so they have their needlepoint canvases, their stockings from Nana. So, I beat you.
Yeah, by a long way you beat me.
But congratulations, because that's an accomplishment to make the stockings. I think, and I made some for each of my family too. My husband's took the longest because I made a mistake somewhere and I couldn't find it. So, sometimes that just gets put away. And it was cross stitch. So when I finally pulled it back out, I realized I couldn't find the mistake. So I just kept going. But it took me 10 years to pull it back out again. Because the kids were pestering me. They were like, well, we have stockings. Where's Dad? And then I finally did one for myself. I think it was 2 years ago because I didn't have one for myself. And they were like, okay, we have stockings, Mom. Why do you have this chintzy store-bought thing? I was like, well... Get it done.
Yeah. That's sweet. I don't think my daughter's the only one in my family that I haven't done something for. So I have like a little mini stocking I'm getting ready to stitch for her. And, cause she's mid-30s, so I can't, if I go ahead and do a large one, she'll never get it. So, but yeah, I think that's kind of cool. And you know what I thought of when you were talking about that, Beth, is like for the church work, I always suggest that they take the canvases to Sunday school, or if they have grandchildren or children, and have them do a stitch or two in the canvas. And then, that way they have a bond to the canvas. And it's like, so I was thinking, like, with your stocking or something, or even with one I'm doing with my daughter, have her do a couple stitches in it, so I don't know. It's sort of.
It is. And because my son used to stitch. He's way past that now, but he stitched on his stocking, and I think he stitched his stitches the opposite way. So, but I left them in because they remind me of him when I put them up. And then my oldest son, he was when I first stocking I finished, and he wanted dragons. Well, he drew the picture for it, and then I needle pointed it. And
cool.
And he picked the colors. He did not want to put a stitch in, but he wanted to pick exactly the colors. And I would audition stitches, and he'd say, "Yes, that one." Now you've got a 4-year-old design that stocking, and it looks like a 4-year-old design.
Oh,
but
how cool is that?
Right. And I asked him recently, because he's 27 years old. I said, "Do you want a different stocking?" He goes, "No, I like this stocking." I'm like, "Okay, you know." And it does. It reminds me of that 4-year-old little boy who loved dragons. You know, it was just like, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now I feel bad that I didn't have my grandchildren take a stitch in theirs.
It's, you know, and you have to remember, you know, if they're doing it, like, because I would have a lot of times little kids will ask me, or if there's children around and I'm stitching, they'll come and look, and a lot of times I will let them take a stitch I'll let them hold the needle and pull it up and down. The stitches aren't perfect, but normally if it's a piece I'm carrying around, I don't really care if they're perfect, and I just leave them in. I figure, you know, it's got their little signature in there with whatever I'm doing. So
yeah, very true. I mean, because it's handwork, so it shouldn't be perfect.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So now that you're not finishing pieces, what's happening with your studio? Has it become a video studio, or is the personal stitching starting to make its way in? How is that evolving?
Well, the day after Christmas, we started moving my studio home. You know, there's a gentleman who's worked for me for, 30 years, and he has a full-time job as well. And he was kind of wanting to phase out of helping me. And then a woman that had worked for me for 16 years up and moved to Vermont. And so everybody's older than me, and they are all kind of like, phasing out of it. So I decided, since I'm not going to be I don't need that big workshop anymore, I decided just to set up a studio at home. So that's where I am now. It's been a little bit of adjustment because I'm used to going somewhere every day pretty much. And, and then if people want to drop something by, they're coming, to the house rather than my studio at, the other facilities. So I like it though. It's, I'm getting used to it. So I am, it's more of a studio office situation right now. And because I paint too, I paint oils and pastels and, that type of medium. So I've got that all set up in here now where I can access it easily when I'm ready to do it. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. And because before it really looked more like a manufacturing type of business, the way it was set up before. So yeah. And so this fits more of the artsy side of me.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And in your home, you don't have to go anywhere, and you can start to enjoy. Do the enjoyment part of it instead of it being a job that needs to get done. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other nice thing about teaching too, is it's not a 40-hour, 50, 60-hour week, you can schedule it when it works out for you and everybody else. So,
right.
That's kind of what's going on there. And
so design work, gonna maybe design some painted canvases, convert your paintings to canvas. Any of that in the works?
I'm painting a canvas for a church out in California right now. It's for a pray-do kneeler. But what I'm going to kind of start doing is I was going to go back through all the jobs that I have designed and painted for and do some kind of painting in oil on canvas, not needlepoint canvas, but canvas, and a composition of those designs, for these individual churches. Like there might, a church that I did work for might have a repetitive design, but there's all different symbols throughout the pieces. So I haven't really put one together yet, but I was thinking, what I'm going to do is just start creating an oil painting that's inspired by the designs I did for that individual church. Either I'll keep them for myself just to tap back into that, or, see if, someone that I worked with at the church, or if the church might want it. So, I was thinking about all these people who have spent their time and was married to that piece of canvas for all those years might want a oil painting, since the piece isn't in their home and something they get to see all the time. So I don't know, that kind of has crossed my mind.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have more time to explore those things. That's kind of exciting in its own right.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Different phase of life.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see. Well, we should get back to you before 4 years go by, but it just would be interesting in a couple of years to see how things evolve for you and what paths, because you've got a heck of a foundation of needlework to draw from and to use in different ways. So it'll be interesting to see how that works for you.
I know, because you don't know until you start doing something different. There's that quote of Joseph Campbell that I always think of, and he always told his students, if you follow your bliss, the doors will open, so that's kind of, what I feel like now. I'm starting to follow my bliss and teaching what these instructional videos, who knows where it's going to go.
Right.
So,
right. Right. And I do feel there's a need for those there, because there aren't a lot of finishers of needlepoint, and there's not much out there on how, because it's different than finishing a counted cross stitch piece. It is. It's very different than that. And so the fact that you're filling that market for people, I think, is fabulous, because we need it. We need a way to finish our pieces.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I've procrastinated way too long, getting them out. And part of that is the fact that I was still working, and, it's like a catch-22. You're still doing this part of the business, but you want to start something new. But then what the finishing and everything was familiar to me, and it was something I've done so naturally for so long. It's easier to wake up in the morning and go do that rather than jump into something that is new territory.
Yep.
Right.
So
that's so true. That is so true. It's so hard to break out of the comfort zone, isn't it?
Yeah. It's actually like I when I first started sitting down to videotape, and then I sat down to edit, I felt like I was having an anxiety attack. It's sort of like fear, like this is new and it's foreign, and should I be doing this? It's all that self-doubt comes out.
Yep.
But
yes.
Yeah, that whole the whole video thing. I think back to school. The kids that were in the AV club that were always moving the movie projectors around and all that stuff, and sadly we used to make fun of them, And now every one of us would love to be friends with one of those experts of video and editing and lighting and all those things, because in one way or another, everybody's tried to make a video.
It's true. It's funny you say that, Gary, because that's what I've been thinking. It's like, who do I know?
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, no one.
Yep. So true. Yep. Well, Nancy, this has been a treat. I'll tell you, thanks for doing this, and it's been so much fun to get caught up. And now Fancywork Finishing is Nancy's website, fancyworkfinishing.com. So you can go there, see her work, learn about her videos and whatever else she cooks up here in the near future. And just to see some of the work she's done for churches is a real treat when at the site. So fancyworkfinishing.com. And Nancy, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate both of you having me on your show. And then if anybody wants to be added to the mailing list for the videos, go ahead and subscribe through the website. There's an area there where you can watch I did a little segment on replacing missing stitches without having to disassemble a piece. It's a 7-step process. Or send me an email and I'll add you to the mailing list. So, but I appreciate both of you having me on, and I hope you have a great spring and summer.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for listening.